The mining vessel Argosy hung like a speck against the backdrop of Neptune's pale blue glow, its laser drills biting into the dense crust of a rogue moon. The crew expected nothing but ore and ice, until the drill struck something that sent shockwaves through the ship. Captain Mira Talon ordered an immediate halt, her voice steady despite the quiver of unease rippling through her bridge crew. The feed from the drill's camera revealed a smooth, metallic surface beneath the rock, its sheen alien and unmarred by time. Mira's stomach churned. It wasn't every day you encountered something that shouldn't be there. "Cut the feed," she said, turning to her XO. "We're sealing this site until we figure out what we've got." The artifact was massive, half buried in the moon's crust, its surface adorned with intricate carvings that pulsed faintly when exposed to light. News traveled fast, reaching Earth within hours. It wasn't long before government scientists and private contractors descended on the site like vultures. Weeks later, it was hauled into orbit, where teams of engineers and physicists worked tirelessly to unlock its secrets. But it wasn't until Dr. Alina Cross, Earth's most respected diplomat, and Kaiokoi, a rising star in xenobiology, arrived that the relic's true purpose began to emerge. "It's not just some alien artifact," Kai murmured, his fingers tracing the carvings etched into the surface. "It's a message, or maybe an invitation." Alina stood beside him, her sharp eyes scanning the glyphs. "If you're right, then the whole galaxy might be watching." Her words were prophetic. 2 nights later, the artifact activated. A beam of light shot from its core, rippling through the Sol system. Communication systems across Earth scrambled as a message broadcast in every language known, and several unknown. "Attention, sentients of the galaxy," the voice intoned, smooth and resonant. "The time of discord must end. Gather at the Nexus of Unity to decide your fate." The broadcast included a set of coordinates, far beyond any explored territory, and a countdown, 60 days. Pandemonium erupted. Governments scrambled to respond, news outlets blared theories of impending invasion, and conspiracy groups claimed the artifact was a harbinger of doom. Yet amid the chaos, humanity found an odd sense of resolve. The United Earth Coalition, formed after decades of war and environmental collapse, saw this as an opportunity. "We must rise to this challenge," their statement declared. "If humanity is to find its place among the stars, it must begin here." Alina was chosen to lead the delegation. Her reputation for brokering peace among Earth's fractured nations made her the perfect candidate. Kai, with his expertise in deciphering alien biology and language, was the natural second. Together, they would represent Earth in what could either be its greatest leap forward or its final misstep. As their sleek, experimental starship Endeavour prepared for launch, Alina looked out at the stars, determination etched on her face. "This is it," she said to Kai, "the moment we prove humanity belongs in the galaxy." Unknown to them, distant eyes had already taken notice, and not all were friendly. The Endeavour glided into the vast docking ring of the Nexus of Unity, its silver hull gleaming under the station's harsh, artificial light. The structure was awe-inspiring, a gargantuan, ring-shaped station orbiting a dying red giant. Every surface hummed with energy, alive with alien ships of every size and shape. For Alina and Kai, it was a baptism into the chaotic tapestry of galactic life. As the crew disembarked, their arrival drew stares. Tall, reptilian Hesherans hissed in low tones, their golden scales catching the light. Feline-like Fenar, draped in flowing garments, flicked their tails in bemusement. A towering, insectoid Kulren clicked its mandibles in irritation. "They don't look too impressed," Kai muttered under his breath, glancing nervously at the assembled throng. "They're not," Alina replied, her voice cool but firm. "But we didn't come here for their approval. We came to prove we belong." The Nexus's central hall was a cacophony of voices. Representatives from hundreds of species argued in a dozen overlapping languages, the air thick with tension. The Vrax Consortium delegation, led by the imposing High Speaker Drelvo, dominated the chamber. Their translucent skin glowing, bioluminescent veins exuded an unsettling, otherworldly presence. Elena Cross of Earth, Drelvo sneered as she approached. The fledgling species. It's curious that the Nexus called even you. Perhaps it's lowering its standards. Kai stiffened, but Elena remained composed. Perhaps it recognizes potential where others see only arrogance, she replied, her words sharp yet measured. The exchange earned a ripple of murmurs from nearby delegations, but the Vrax waved her off with a disdainful flick of their hand. Elena took note. Humanity's uphill battle had only just begun. Later, as Elena prepared for the summit's opening session, Kay wandered the station's sprawling promenade. Despite the hostility of some species, he was captivated by the sheer variety of life. Vendors sold glowing fruit, levitating trinkets, and holographic art. Conversations buzzed in languages both melodic and harsh, creating a symphony of alien culture. But his awe turned to unease when he noticed something odd, a shadowy figure moving against the flow of the crowd. Clad in dark, featureless armor, the figure slipped into a restricted maintenance corridor. Curiosity piqued, Kai followed, keeping to the edges of the dimly lit corridor. The figure stopped at a terminal, placing a small device on its surface. It pulsed red briefly before vanishing into the terminal circuitry. Kay's gut twisted. This wasn't routine maintenance, it was sabotage. He ducked behind a support pillar, fumbling for his comms. "Elena," he whispered, heart pounding. "Something's wrong. I think someone's sabotaging the station." Before Elena could respond, alarms blared. The station shuddered violently, and the lights dimmed. Chaos erupted as species fled for cover, their voices rising in panic. Back in the hall, Elena's gaze snapped to Drelvo, who stood unnervingly calm amid the chaos. "Stay close, Kai," she ordered through her comm. This summit just became a war zone. Unknown to them, the saboteurs' actions were only the beginning of a far more dangerous plot. The nexus of unity was a swirling maelstrom of confusion. Delegates scrambled for safety as automated defense systems malfunctioned, sending sparks and debris cascading across the grand chamber. Elena Cross pushed through the panicking crowd, her focus laser-sharp. "Kai, where are you?" She hissed into her communicator, ducking as a stray drone spiraled overhead, its navigation systems fried. "I'm near the maintenance ring," Kai replied, his voice breathless. "I saw someone plant something on a terminal before all hell broke loose. I'm trying to track them." "Be careful," Elena warned, "and don't confront them alone." The summit, already fraught with tension, now teetered on the edge of collapse. In the council chamber, representatives from the galaxy's most powerful factions hurled accusations at one another. "This is an act of war," bellowed Tikal Freth, a Rentil Alliance general with scales like obsidian. His clawed hand pointed accusingly at the Drakthar delegation, known for their militaristic tendencies. "Perhaps if your people weren't so fragile, you'd withstand a minor disruption," retorted the Drakthar envoy, a towering figure clad in blackened armor. Elena seized the moment, her voice cutting through the cacophony. "Enough," she shouted, silencing the chamber. She stepped forward, meeting each delegate's gaze with calm authority. We all felt the explosion. But pointing fingers without evidence will get us nowhere. This summit was called to achieve peace, and we cannot let fear unravel it. The room buzzed with murmurs, but her words gave some pause. Even the Vrax High Speaker, Drelvos, tilted their head in curiosity, as if reconsidering their initial dismissal of humanity. Meanwhile, Kai followed the saboteur deeper into the station's maintenance levels. The air grew colder, the hum of alien machinery echoing eerily. His heart pounded as he spotted the figure ahead, crouched at another terminal. This time, Kai activated his datapad, discreetly recording the scene. The saboteur placed another device, and Kay's eyes widened as its markings flickered with the sigil of the Vrax Consortium. Suddenly, the figure turned, as if sensing Kay's presence. Without hesitation, they drew a sleek alien weapon and fired. A bolt of energy seared past Kay's head, striking the wall behind him. "Not friendly," Kai muttered, ducking behind a support beam. He fired a flare from his emergency kit, its flash momentarily disorienting the saboteur. Using the distraction, Kai darted back toward the main levels, his comm buzzing. "Alina, it's the Vrax," he gasped. "I have proof. They're sabotaging the summit." Above, Alina's comm crackled just as tensions in the chamber reached a boiling point. She activated the transmission, displaying Kay's recording on the central holo display. The room fell silent as the Vrax sigil shimmered in the footage, damning evidence of their involvement. Drelvos's bioluminescent veins pulsed furiously, their voice sharp and icy. "This is a fabrication, a desperate ploy from a species too young to understand the complexities of galactic politics." Alina stepped forward, her expression unyielding. "The footage doesn't lie. The Vrax are trying to sabotage this summit because they fear what peace might cost them: power." The accusation rippled through the room, igniting both outrage and contemplation. The smaller factions, long overshadowed by the Vrax's dominance, began murmuring among themselves. As the Nexus stabilized, the fractures among the galaxy's powers grew deeper. Alina knew this was only the beginning. They had evidence, but turning it into action would require a dangerous gamble, and humanity was quickly running out of time. The aftermath of the Vrax sabotage left the Nexus of Unity trembling on the brink of collapse. Delegates from numerous species eyed each other with suspicion, alliances wavering as trust eroded. Amid the chaos, Alina Cross and Kayokoi recognized an unprecedented opportunity. Humanity could be the linchpin to restore order. Alina convened a private meeting in a secluded chamber, away from the prying eyes of the dominant factions. "We need to act swiftly," she asserted, laying out a holographic map of the Nexus. "The Vrax are manipulating perceptions, but there are others who've been marginalized and oppressed under their rule. If we can unite these smaller factions, we can counterbalance the Vrax's influence." Kay nodded, tapping his datapad to display intercepted communications. "I've been analyzing the encoded messages left by the saboteurs. There's a pattern, mathematical and biological sequences that suggest a hidden language. Using Earth's advancements in cryptography and bioinformatics, I believe we can fully decipher them. This could lead us to more evidence against the Vrax." Alina's eyes sparkled with determination. "Good. While you work on that, I'll reach out to the smaller delegations. Offer them representation and protection in exchange for their support. Show them that humanity stands with them, not just as an underdog, but as a beacon of hope." Meanwhile, Kai set up a makeshift lab in the Nexus's secondary chamber, surrounded by a diverse team of alien scientists intrigued by his methods. Using a combination of quantum computing and bioalgorithms, he began to unravel the complexities of the sabotage signals. Hours turned into days as breakthroughs emerged, revealing not just the Vrax's hand, but also a network of covert operations aimed at destabilizing the summit permanently. Back in the Central Hall, Alina's diplomatic efforts bore fruit. She met with representatives of the Siluri, a serene aquatic species oppressed by the Vrax's territorial expansions, and the Tarnik, a resilient subterranean race whose mining operations had been monopolized by Vrax corporations. By offering them a seat at the negotiating table and promising mutual support, Alina fostered a coalition grounded in shared grievances and collective strength. "Alina, you're doing incredible work," remarked Thurakin, the Siluri ambassador, her luminescent eyes reflecting genuine admiration. "We've long been silenced, but your presence here inspires us to speak out." Elena smiled warmly. "Together, we can redefine the power dynamics of this summit. It's time for all voices to be heard." With the newly formed alliance, humanity began to shift the balance of power. Delegations that had previously been sidelined now rallied behind Earth's leadership, bringing with them unique technologies and insights. The Vraks, sensing the tide turning, intensified their propaganda, attempting to paint humanity as the true saboteurs. But the Coalition's unified front made their efforts increasingly futile. During a critical assembly, Kai presented his findings. "The sabotage wasn't random," he announced, projecting the decoded messages onto the central display. "These communications reveal a coordinated effort orchestrated by the Vraks Consortium to undermine the summit. We have undeniable evidence of their involvement." Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber as the Vraks delegation faltered under the weight of the revelation. High Speaker Drelvos attempted to dismiss the evidence, but the coalition members demanded transparency. Under mounting pressure, the Vraks had no choice but to concede some responsibility, their dominance visibly shaken. Elena seized the moment. This summit was meant to pave the way for peace and cooperation. Let's not allow fear and manipulation to derail our progress. United, we can ensure that the nexus of unity becomes a true symbol of galactic harmony. The room erupted in cautious applause, the foundation of a genuine interspecies alliance taking shape. Humanity's role as a unifying force was cemented, earning them respect and admiration from even the most skeptical delegates. Yet, with their newfound influence, the Vraks marked humanity as a significant threat to their supremacy. As Elena and Kai stood side by side, surveying the burgeoning coalition, they knew their journey was far from over. The Vraks would not relinquish their power easily, and the path to true galactic peace would require resilience, ingenuity, and unwavering unity. But for the first time, humanity felt empowered to lead the charge toward a harmonious future among the stars. The tension on the nexus of unity was palpable. Though humanity's coalition was gaining momentum, the Vraks Consortium wasn't retreating quietly. Their concessions in the council chambers had been a calculated ruse, a facade masking their next move. Elena Cross paced the delegation's quarters, her mind racing. Kai Avokoi sat nearby, sifting through intercepted transmissions from the Vraks. His datapad beeped, displaying an ominous message fragment. Phase 2 initiated. Blockade imminent. "They're planning something big," Kai said, his voice laced with urgency. "They're losing control of the narrative," Elena replied, her jaw tightening. "They can't afford to lose their grip on the summit, or the galaxy." Before she could elaborate, the station's lights dimmed. A deep hum reverberated through the nexus as a fleet of Vraks warships emerged from hyperspace, encircling the station like predators cornering their prey. The view from the observation deck was grim, sleek, glowing vessels bristling with weapons trained on the nexus. The council chambers erupted into chaos as Drelvo, the Vraks High Speaker, took the floor. Their bioluminescent veins pulsed ominously as they addressed the gathered delegates. "The nexus of unity has been compromised," Vos declared, their voice smooth but dripping with menace. "We cannot allow a coalition of weak, fractured species, led by an unproven upstart like humanity, to dictate the galaxy's future. Effective immediately, the Vraks Consortium assumes control to restore order." Elena rose from her seat, her voice cutting through the noise. "You don't care about restoring order. This is a coup, a desperate attempt to cling to power. The galaxy sees through your lies, Vos." Vos' eyes glimmered with malice. Brave words for someone whose species has barely left its own star system. "Perhaps you need a demonstration of true power." The Vraks blockade began targeting critical nexus systems, shutting down life support and communications. Panic swept through the station as oxygen levels dipped and vital systems failed. Elena's coalition scrambled to organize resistance, but the Vrax's dominance left little room for maneuvering. Meanwhile, Kai worked feverishly in the Nexus's command hub alongside Siluri and Tarnic technicians. The Vrax have hacked the station's core systems, he explained, pulling up holographic schematics. If we can isolate their signal and reroute control, we might be able to break their grip. Siluri Ambassador Zerakin placed a webbed hand on his shoulder. Our people have faced worse odds. We trust your ingenuity, Kai. Show us what humanity is capable of. With alien expertise bolstering his efforts, Kai initiated a daring countermeasure, rerouting the station's dormant defense grid through an ancient subsystem he had uncovered. As the grid roared to life, pulses of energy surged through the Nexus, forcing the Vrax ships to back off momentarily. Elena seized the moment to galvanize her allies. "This is our chance," she shouted. "We stand united, or we fall divided. Humanity will not bow to tyranny, and neither should you." Her words lit a fire among the coalition. Tarnic engineers repurposed mining drones into makeshift defense units, while Siluri envoys coordinated with other species to rally their fleets. The tide began to turn as the coalition mounted a resistance from within the Nexus. But the Vrax weren't done yet. In a desperate move, Drelvos unleashed a cloaked strike team to target the coalition's leaders, starting with Elena. The strike team infiltrated the Nexus, their presence detected too late by Kai, who frantically warned Elena. She and her security team braced for the attack, holding their ground in a dimly lit corridor as the sound of advancing footsteps echoed closer. "Elena," Kay's voice crackled through her earpiece, "help is on the way. Hold the line." She gripped her weapon tightly, determination burning in her eyes. "We've come too far to lose now." The first shots rang out, and the fight for the Nexus and humanity's place in the galaxy raged on. The first flash of plasma fire illuminated the corridor, casting sharp shadows against the walls. Elena Cross crouched behind a bulkhead, her pulse steady as her coalition's security forces exchanged fire with the Vrax strike team. The air crackled with the sharp tang of ozone and the thudding rhythm of advancing footsteps. "Flank them," Elena barked to her team, her voice carrying over the chaos. Her bodyguard, a stoic Tarnic named Mrev, nodded and disappeared into the shadows. Moments later, the distinctive whir of a mining drone-turned-combat unit surged forward, its drill arm spinning. The Vrax operatives fell back under the onslaught, their sleek armor scorched by the drone's repurposed plasma cutters. "Status, Kai?" Elena shouted into her comm as she fired off a volley of suppressive shots. Kay's voice came through, strained but focused. "We're close. The defense grid's reactivation is destabilizing their blockade, but they've started jamming the network. It's a fight to keep control." Elena's jaw tightened. "Keep pushing. We need that grid operational to stand a chance." In the Nexus command hub, Kai and his team of Siluri and Tarnic technicians worked with feverish intensity. The station's ancient systems resisted their every input, a labyrinth of alien code long dormant. "The Vrax's sabotage runs deep," Zorikin observed, her glowing eyes darting over the console. "We'll need more power to override their jamming signal." Kai gritted his teeth, "Then we use the artifact." All heads turned to him in shock. "The artifact?" Zorikin repeated, disbelief in her voice. "It's connected to the Nexus. It sent the invitation, it broadcasted the call," Kai explained. "Whatever tech powers, it is centuries ahead of anything here. If we can integrate it into the station's systems, it might be enough to tip the scales." "It could destroy the Nexus," a Tarnic technician cautioned. "Or it could save it," Kai shot back. "Do we have a choice?" Reluctantly, the team agreed. With every second counting, they rushed to connect the artifact to the Nexus's core systems, its intricate carvings glowing brighter with each interface. Energy rippled through the station, and for a moment, the Vrax's jamming signal faltered. Back in the corridor, the tide of battle shifted. Mrev and the reproposed drones had driven the Vrax operatives into retreat, but the strike team leader, a hulking figure armed with a blade that shimmered with deadly precision, advanced toward Alina. She raised her weapon, but the operative moved too fast, slashing it aside and closing the distance. Alina narrowly dodged the strike, her instincts sharp. The next blow grazed her shoulder, the blade burning as it sliced through her jacket. Alina gritted her teeth against the pain, drawing a concealed blade of her own. The two clashed in close quarters, their movements quick and deliberate. With a feint, Alina drove her blade into the operative's side, and they fell with a grunt of pain. Before she could recover, her comm crackled. "Alina," Kay's voice was urgent. "The artifact, it's waking up the station. I think it's more than just a beacon. It's alive." As the station's systems surged with new power, the Nexus itself seemed to respond. Sections of the station lit up with renewed energy, and the Vrax fleet found itself unable to penetrate the restored defense grid. Their ships were pushed back, their blockade breaking under the pressure. In the council chamber, Drelvo glared at the holographic projections of their failing plan. Their once dominant composure fractured. "This isn't over," they hissed, storming out as the coalition leaders exchanged wary but hopeful glances. Alina, bloodied but unbowed, arrived in the chamber just as the artifact's energy cascaded through the Nexus. She took her place at the center, her gaze sweeping across the gathered delegates. "We've shown the galaxy what unity can achieve," she declared. "But this isn't the end, it's the beginning. The Vrax won't stop here, and neither can we. Together, we can reshape the future." The chamber erupted in a mix of cheers and cautious applause. But in the shadows, unseen forces began to stir, setting the stage for an even greater conflict. The artifact had awoken something far older and far more dangerous than any of them could comprehend. The Nexus hummed with new life as the artifact's energy coursed through its core systems. Hallways long dormant now thrummed with light, revealing intricate carvings and alien inscriptions that had gone unnoticed for centuries. To most, it was a sign of renewal, but to Alina Cross and her coalition, it was a forewarning. Kai paced in the command hub, datapad in hand. The artifact's influence had done more than reactivate the station's defenses. It had begun unlocking encrypted files embedded deep within the Nexus's memory banks. A holographic projection flickered to life, displaying a galaxy map overlaid with unfamiliar constellations. "These are pre-galactic civilizations," Zorakin murmured, her glowing eyes wide with awe. "The artifact isn't just a tool, it's a repository of knowledge, a record of those who came before." Kay's expression darkened. "And maybe a warning. Look at this." He zoomed in on a marked sector, its star systems overlaid with glyphs resembling containment seals. One symbol repeated ominously across multiple regions: quarantine. Alina entered the hub, still nursing the burn wound from her earlier encounter. "What are we looking at?" "A map of something ancient," Kai explained. "And dangerous. These marked zones, they're not just warnings, they're sealed regions of space. Whatever's in them, the artifact was designed to keep it locked away." Alina's gaze hardened. "And now we've woken it up." Elsewhere in the Nexus, Drelvos retreated to a concealed chamber, seething over their unraveling plan. The Vrax high speaker activated a private communicator, its signal bypassing the Coalition's monitoring systems. "Report," Vos demanded. A shadowy figure, their face obscured, appeared on the screen. "The artifact's awakening is ahead of schedule, but the disruption has forced our hand. Containment is no longer viable." Vos's bioluminescent veins pulsed with agitation. "Then initiate Protocol Omega. Let the Coalition believe they've won. They'll face something far worse than us soon enough." The figure hesitated. "Are you certain? Even the Vrax can't predict the consequences of unsealing the quarantined regions." Vos' expression was cold. "We don't need to predict. We just need to survive." Back in the Coalition's chambers, Alina convened her allies to discuss their next steps. Representatives from the Silari, Tarnik, and other smaller factions leaned in as Kai presented his findings. The artifact wasn't just broadcasting a call for unity, he explained. It was sending out a containment alert, a signal designed to ensure the galaxy's powers stayed vigilant against ancient threats. Silari Ambassador Zerakin looked troubled. And by reactivating it, we've likely drawn attention to the Nexus. Not just attention, Kai added grimly. We've disrupted whatever systems were keeping those threats locked away. The Vrax knew this. They've been trying to control the artifact, not destroy it. Alina nodded, which means they're planning for what happens next. She turned to the gathered delegates. We can't let the galaxy descend into chaos again. If ancient weapons or entities are about to emerge, we need to be ready. Humanity won't back down, and neither should any of you. The Coalition's rallying cry echoed through the Nexus, but their newfound unity was about to be tested. As the artifact's power reached its peak, the station's systems emitted a low, resonant tone. Kay's datapad flared with activity, displaying a message in the same glyphs they had deciphered earlier. This time, however, the translation was clear. Containment breached. The Watchers awaken. The message was followed by a sudden shift in the Nexus atmosphere. Energy rippled through the station as sections of the galaxy map flickered, marking previously uncharted sectors. Alarms blared as the Nexus detected massive gravitational distortions at the edges of known space. What's happening? Alina demanded, gripping the edge of the console. Kay's voice was shaky. Something's coming, and it's not stopping. The Nexus trembled as the first echoes of the Watchers, a force older than any galactic empire, began to stir. Humanity had united the galaxy in the face of political manipulation, but now they faced an enemy that might require them to unify the galaxy for survival itself. The tremors within the Nexus intensified, and the lights flickered as energy surged through the station's core. An eerie, unnatural silence followed, broken only by the relentless hum of ancient machinery deep within the station's belly. Alina Cross stood at the helm of the Coalition's unity, her face set in grim determination. The Vrax had backed into the shadows for now, but something far more dangerous had begun to stir in the far reaches of space. The Watchers were no mere myth, they were real, and their awakening threatened not just the Nexus, but the entire galaxy. We don't have much time, Alina said, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding. The message was clear: containment breached. The Watchers awaken. Kai, who had been scanning the station's encrypted data streams, raised his head. His face was pale. The Watchers are entities from an ancient species that predate the galaxy itself. They've been dormant in sealed regions, their power and knowledge considered too dangerous for any to wield. We've just torn down their prison walls. The room fell silent as the weight of their situation sank in. The artifact, humanity's last hope for uniting the galaxy, was now the key to unlocking a force older and far more powerful than anyone had ever anticipated. Zerakin, the Silari ambassador, spoke up. Then we must do the opposite of what the Vrax intended. We need to seal them back away, but we don't have the technology or the time. Alina's mind raced. No, we do have the time, but we must be smarter. We've underestimated the power of the Watchers. If we try to contain them with brute force, we'll fail. We need a way to restore the balance that once existed before they were imprisoned. Kai began typing furiously on his datapad, eyes scanning a holographic map of the galaxy. There's a way. There are old hidden conduits that tie the Watchers to their prison. The artifact was a key that could open the gates, but it's also a key that can lock them back. We need to activate those conduits at the Nexus's core and trigger the containment system's reverse process. But I need help. This is beyond anything I can handle alone. Alina nodded, understanding the stakes. Everyone, listen up. We're going to fight fire with fire. The artifact's power is humanity's gift to the galaxy. Now it's time to use it to save it. Outside the Nexus, the first signs of the Watcher's arrival were clear. Massive energy disturbances rippled across space, warping the fabric of reality itself. Distant stars began to blink out of existence, their light swallowed by an unseen force. The Vrax warships, still lingering nearby, hesitated, realizing that their greatest enemy wasn't humanity, it was something far more ancient. In the command hub, the Coalition members worked in unison, each species bringing its unique expertise to the table. The Tarnic engineers rewired the Nexus's energy grid, channeling its reserves to power the conduit activation process. The Settlari, with their vast knowledge of energy flows, aided Kai in deciphering the final steps of the artifact's reactivation sequence. Alina stood at the center of the operation, her gaze unwavering. Once we start this, there's no turning back. We're gambling with everything. I need everyone here to trust one another. Humanity's leadership depends on it. Her words seemed to resonate across the room. The Coalition, once a disparate group of species with little in common, now moved as one. They had united against the Vrax, and now they would unite against the very forces of the galaxy's ancient past. As Kai activated the final sequence, the Nexus's core hummed louder, an immense pulse of energy surging through the station. Outside, the stars trembled. The Watchers, now fully aware of their impending fate, unleashed a wave of psionic energy, pushing against the seal. The Nexus quaked violently as the artifact's power clashed with the ancient forces. For a moment, it seemed the Watchers would break free. The fabric of reality itself strained as the forces of the artifact and the Watchers collided. Then, with a final blinding flash of light, the energy snapped back. The station systems locked in place, and the gravitational anomalies receded. It was over, for now. Alina stood alone on the observation deck, staring out at the darkened expanse of space. The Watchers had been sealed again, their influence contained, for the moment. But the scars of their awakening lingered in the hearts and minds of every species in the galaxy. The Coalition had survived, but at what cost? The Vrax had been exposed as the true manipulators, but the Watchers' presence had altered the galaxy's future irreparably. Humanity had risen to lead the galaxy toward peace, but with the knowledge that the real battle for survival would never end. The Watchers were waiting, and the galaxy had learned one undeniable truth. Unity was the only force capable of standing against the darkness that lay beyond the stars. As Alina watched the stars slowly begin to brighten again, she knew that the future was uncertain. But for the first time, she believed in humanity's ability to shape it. The galaxy would need more than just leaders, it would need all of them united, and humanity would not back down.